But yeah. Hey Brett, you had something ready.
I did.
Then we popped
I almost
off.
forgot until then we went insane. So you may remember a while ago that I finished a game called Wild Arms 3, and I started. It was like a very asymmetrical parabola where I was like, this is cool cowboy game. This sucks.
Yep,
And
I do
I was
remember that
very
moment.
sad. Yeah, I was very sad because I just wanted good cool cowboy game. I have not played the first or the second Wild Arms, but just the other day, last week, I finished Wild Arms 5. And it is almost a completely different game mechanically, and it is so much better off for it. It is like, I know, like out of all the, because I'm going through playing all the JRPGs I missed from not giving a crap like a year ago. I like on paper, if we're going off of like probably actually the best critically like JRPG, like Chrono Trigger is going to stay at the top, but I think my favorite is probably Little Ol' Wild Arms 5 on the PS2 that like two YouTubers with like 5 subscribers talk about. It's like, because Wild Arms 3, like for an example of its gameplay, is just super like, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just like bare bones, just turn-based JRPG, goodness in some people's opinion, Wyatt badness. But it just depends if you like it or not. And I was fine with that. Like that's not the the problem. But like Wild Arms 5, like they have this like this hex grid of like a strategy element where you can move your characters between the things, the hexes on the grid, and they're all in different shapes for every different battle. And then the the elements of your attacks, all the magical attacks that you can get in the game are just like the crystal symbol for them is gray, which means that there's just like it'll do magic damage, but it won't do like fire or water or anything. You need to cast them while standing on like the water hex for them to do water damage. And sometimes the boss that is weak to water will be standing right smack in front of the water hex. So you need to use the guy that has the switch attack to teleport into his spot and switch him around. And it's like the amount of things that you can do are just like compared to the rather bare bones third one. And I know I'm like blabbing on about something that I'm the only one who has played either example.
I care, Brett.
But it's legitimately, I was so surprised, like, because it really did just start out like I just want good cowboy game. And then the other one was so sad that maybe this one, it's 2 games later. People said the fourth one sucked. This one's gotta be good, right? And like it's to the point where I don't know how the franchise like ended there, because that is probably like the best one. I'm gonna be honest with you. It is incredible. I'm trying to think of more things that I can talk about that aren't like narrative or like super like super Brett specific things. But the one of the battles later in the game, you the build up for it is just like amazing. There's giant robots. It's just a bunch of giant robot punching each other, and then like an anime OP starts playing in the background with like J-pop.
Yes.
And then you fight this like huge monstrous thing while this 7-minute J-pop masterpiece is playing in the background. I'm just like, yes, the whole time.
It's pure adrenaline.
Absolutely, yeah. There was that moment later in the game, legitimately, like usually like video games or something like Okami that I mentioned before, that you stay with for such a long time and then it ends and it's like, it brings a tear to my eye. Like I almost started crying while playing Wild Arms 5 because it was so awesome, and I was like, this is the most impressive thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, in terms of like evolution of within the same franchise, like that is like from 0 to 100. Man, I don't know how people can even enjoy Wild Arms 3 when 5 exists. Like, jeez.
Is Wild
it's that much of an
Arms
improvement.
a like, do you need to play the sequence of them to get them, or are they standalone?
Absolutely not. The only thing kind of like that with 5 is that I think they had a feeling that it would probably be the last one that they made. So there's cameos of characters from the previous games, but they're really just there like because they look cool and you can do a side quest with them. So you don't. It's a Final Fantasy thing where like the world's called Filgaia every time, and you have arms that are just guns. Yeah,
of course.
So you just play the 5th one and it'll be fine.
Yeah, actually, I think I got something that's interesting to talk about along Wild Arms 5, because it sounds like it's got a super interesting combat system that is not standard, which a lot of PS2 JRPGs are known for, is having those very inventive combat systems. And I want to talk about a game that is generally hailed as like one of the best JRPGs to have come out in the last few years, and say I don't think so. Just Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest XI is a great game. It's got a really good story. It's got combat. Because the combat in Dragon Quest XI is the same as the combat in every other Dragon Quest, basically. It is select your attack, do the attack. You can level up on a grid. It's all the things you expect from a JRPG. And a lot of them are very refined.
That 5-second description.
Oh yeah, a lot of them are very refined. Go ahead, Alex.
Play a Dragon Quest character and Smash, and it's the same experience.
Exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah, it's wild because people like hail that game for its gameplay, and I think if you want to see turn-based done in a really interesting way, Persona and Shin Megami Tensei are like the games that are doing that. Yakuza 7 is doing turn-based gameplay in a very unique way. It's still pretty basic, but it's a little bit more unique than what Dragon Quest XI has. And Dragon Quest XI is great. Like, it's a fantastic game that I finished because the story is really good. The gameplay is good enough that you're gonna want to finish the game when you're playing it. But it's so like innocent. It doesn't do anything unique or interesting or have any of those moments where you're like, oh, this is a really cool combo I can do. And I think the biggest detractor from that is the fact that the bosses are basically always immune to almost every status effect. And this is the most annoying thing to me in like any JRPG, and a lot of them do it, where a boss will just be immune to everything. So the only strategy is really either buff yourself enough so you don't die, or kill the boss fast enough that they don't kill you.
Yeah,
that's the worst version of a difficulty curve.
Exactly. It's like it's not even a difficulty curve. It's just like there's no puzzle element to the fight, which is what JRPGs are often known for.
Mm-hmm.
And Dragon Quest has a few great fights of like the bosses aren't immune to things. You can actually like use your character builds to do interesting things. But a lot of the time, those fights just boil down to let me hit you harder than you're hitting me, or heal through everything you're doing.
If you look at what you're doing on the controller, it's just pressing the same button over and over again because you're doing the same menu attack.
Like, say what we will about Final Fantasy XII's gambits, but they're more interesting.
and that's saying something because you don't have to press any buttons.
You don't press any buttons, but at least it's unique.
Yes, this is true.
And I want to make it clear, Dragon Quest XI is a great game. The narrative is absolutely phenomenal. But there are things like the music. As you're saying, the JRPG theme that pops up in Wild Arms 5. There are other games that do that, like Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIII has a banging soundtrack. It's one of the only good parts of that game.
Yeah,
it's so good. Dragon Quest XI has MIDI music, at least the original release. They fixed it in the Switch version and the newer releases. They had a MIDI music of orchestral themes, and it's awful. It's like legitimately awful, and it's the only combat theme. There's like only 3 combat themes in the entire game.
That sucks.
I hydrate to forget.
Insane. And apparently there was a story behind it of like the dude making it had like a problem with the game. That like the composer like didn't like the game or something, and not like because the game was bad or anything, but there's some weird reasons of him. It was like a Kojima versus Konami thing of the company just didn't like him or something.
Weird.
And so the narrative or the music was just kind of phoned in, which is a shame because like the orchestral versions are far better, far more interesting.
Of course, yeah.
Man, I wish there was something aside from just the boom, 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 like Dragon Quest music that always Dragon Quest has.
That's so weird because like PS2 JRPGs will remain part of this conversation until the day that I die. But like you can look back at like PS1 and PS2 JRPGs soundtrack specifically and be like, sometimes this is really good for the time because they're like pushing what you could possibly fit on a PS1 disc that will come out of it without making the poor little thing explode. And like, if that's midis, then sure, like you can, and you have artists like working around that really well. But like Wild Arms 5, there are songs that I am pretty sure that they just got a full orchestra in to do the battle theme, and to hear that like something like Dragon Quest 11, like that is a high profile release of a game that has just gotten midis in it. That is
Square
so
Enix backed release, which is even
so
weirder because Square
weird.
Enix is usually so good about that with Final Fantasy. Of like, everything is orchestra, everything's great. They have like a standby Final Fantasy symphonic orchestra that goes around and tours.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And even from what I understand, like to like Final Fantasy for us in the West is Dragon Quest for the people in Japan, right? Isn't Dragon Quest like way bigger in Japan than it is for us here?
It's both. So Final Fantasy is still super popular, but I think the most popular Final Fantasy games in Japan are the MMOs.
That makes
both
sense.
of them. And like the original games, whereas Dragon Quest is a little bit more mass appeal. Because like Dragon Quest is super cute, and a lot of the Japanese cultural aesthetic likes that. It's a very like cute enemy design, and like that's something that Dragon Quest does great. Is like the enemy designs are unlike anything you will see in other games. You might hate them, but they are at least different.
It's mass appeal because it hasn't changed a bit since it first came out.
Toriyama's art style.
Don't make fun of Toriyama. He's doing his best. Which is the same that he's always been doing.
Dragon Quest 11 has one of the, I think, the ugliest main party characters in a game that I also still simultaneously love the look of. Like, they're ugly because he's just super long. Like, his face is, like, that big. It's just very long. I'll send you a picture after the podcast, but it's wild. It's insane. Good game, horrid music, and needs more variation. All right, I feel like Brett and I have been domineering the JRPG train, the spirit train of JRPGs. What do you two got?